Welcome, my beautiful people, to another episode of Dino Basics, where we dig up the basics on some of our favorite deceased beasts. My name is Logan, and today we continue to expand on our collection of raptor knowledge. We've dug into the basics on the most famed raptor, the one with the hottest temper, and now, potentially the most deadly of this conniving family. Thank you to Chazilla, Wyatt C216, and Nathan Boo for today's topic, the terrifying Utahraptor. The original fossils of Utahraptor are actually quite insignificant, as the first remains were discovered by paleontologist Jim Jensen in 1975. These specimens were recovered in the modern-day United States, specifically the Dalton Wells Quarry in the state of Utah. This first fossil consisted of 2 claw fragments, as well as 3 tail vertebrae which, while small, were worth recovering and sent off to the labs for further study. Despite this, the remains would not be attributed to any genus for over a decade. Almost 15 years later, in 1991, museum lab technician Carl Lamone would discover a large claw from a different quarry in Utah, this time the Gaston Quarry. Paleontologist James Kirkland and his team would further uncover more remains of this creature from the site, and relocate these specimens to the Prehistoric Museum at the Utah State University Eastern. With these remains, Kirkland and his team would declare a new genus and species of dinosaur, named the Utahraptor Austromacey, in 1993. Furthermore, the previously mentioned unidentified remains from Jim Jensen would be retroactively assigned to this newly declared genus. The name Utahraptor is a pretty easy one to break down. Utah is obviously a direct reference to its area of origin, the state of Utah. Raptor directly translates to thief or plunderer, having the name directly translate to Utah thief. It is important to note, however, that Kirkland in his original description stated the translation to be Utah's predator, despite its true Latin origins. Raptor was more likely chosen to fall in line with other members of the dromaeosaur family, like the Velociraptor or Pyroraptor. The species name Austromacey is slightly different. Rather than a direct translation, this name refers to 2 important individuals, including John Ostrom, an expert on the Deinonychus and early advocate for the relationship between dinosaurs and birds, as well as entrepreneur Chris Mays, who helped fund the research into these original Utahraptor specimens. As previously mentioned, Utahraptor was a member of the illustrious dromaeosaur family, including other raptor-ending dinosaurs, and named after the fleet-footed Dromaeosaurus. The dromaeosaurs were a group of carnivorous dinosaurs that lived throughout the Cretaceous period from 145 to 66 million years ago. Members of this family are often described as medium to small-sized predators, distinct for their iconic hook-like foot claws, as well as the inclusion of some amount of feathering on their bodies. Utahraptor is considered the largest of the dromaeosaur family, and significantly larger than their famed relative, the Velociraptor. The original description of Utahraptor described this creature as being able to reach lengths of almost 23 feet, or 7 meters, and stand almost 5.5 feet, or about 2 meters tall. At this size, it was believed to weigh nearly 1,100 pounds, or 500 kilograms, similar to that of a modern polar bear. Although later estimates slightly sized this down to only about 20 feet or 6 meters in length and weighing about 700 pounds or 300 kilograms, which is still nothing to scoff at. Despite their size difference from other dromaeosaurs, the overall body and features of Utahraptor are quite similar to other family members. The jaws of Utahraptor were lined with small serrated teeth, ideal for slicing into flesh and delivering lethal damage to prey. For reasons we will discuss later, It is believed these jaws were crucial for delivering a deadly blow to prey quickly and minimizing the amount of required strikes. While their intelligence is often overblown due to their above average brain to body ratio, it is clear this brain would allow Utahraptor to have exceptional senses of sight and smell, ideal for tracking prey over long distances. This head would be supported by a long, slender neck, leading into their fairly large bodies. Utahraptor was more heavily built than many other dromaeosaurs, which would have had a clear influence on how they hunted. While speed estimates vary, it is unlikely Utahraptor was nearly as fast as other raptors, like Deinonychus or Velociraptor. For this reason, as well as other adaptations in its forelimbs and hind limbs, it is likely Utahraptor hunted in a different style than other raptors. Scientists believe Utahraptor would be almost exclusively an ambush predator, using short bursts of speed to easily catch up to its large targets. Once it attacks, it is believed Utahraptor would be more ruthless than its fellow dromaeosaurs. Paleontologists note how the claws of Utahraptor seem to be more specialized for cutting rather than grabbing, able to deliver significantly more damage to its target. Furthermore, the legs of Utahraptor, particularly the tibia, seem to be significantly thicker than other dromaeosaurs, providing greater leg strength, as well as allowing Utahraptor to better balance itself while kicking prey with its 8-inch or 20-centimeter long toe claws. The weaker tibia of other dromaeosaurs would require them to be grabbing onto their targets, or having their prey fully restrained before kicking. All these factors combine to paint Utahraptor as a much more brutal hunter. Smaller dromaeosaurs like Velociraptor would rely on their reduced size and nimble limbs to outmaneuver prey smaller or comparable in size to themselves. Once latched on to their target, Velociraptor would rely on their curved foot claw and razor-sharp finger claws to restrain prey, piercing into their flesh like fish hooks to hold them in place and deliver the killing blow. Utahraptor seemed more adapted for inflicting maximum damage on medium-sized targets, like certain iguanodontids and hadrosaurs. What this creature lacked in mobility, it more than made up in sheer power and lethality. Its flesh-cutting arm claws and muscular legs allowed the creature to slash into the thick hides of dinosaurs, eventually wearing down their victims until they eventually bled out. While fossil evidence seems to provide a lot of evidence into how Utahraptor hunted, the bones are not as clear into whether this creature was feathered. Various artistic interpretations choose to include some amount of feathering, but it is important to note that there has been no direct evidence of this for Utahraptor. However, phylogenetic evidence seems to indicate that some amount of feathers were likely for this creature to stay in line with its family. For example, while Utahraptor was a fairly early member of the dromaeosaur family, some of the earliest members like Microraptor do have clear evidence of feathering on recovered fossils. Furthermore, other large dromaeosaurs, like the nearly 18-foot or 6-meter long Dakotaraptor, has also shown evidence of feathering, making it not too unlikely Utahraptor sported some kind of featheration of its own. Alright, let's calm down a bit. Utahraptor would have lived during the early Cretaceous period, between 135 to 130 million years ago. Fossil evidence is largely restricted to the modern state of Utah, but it's believed Utahraptor would have lived throughout the modern western United States. Based on plant evidence from the area, it is believed the environment of Utahraptor was a bog-like ecosystem, filled with lush vegetation and shallow water pools. Despite this waterlogged ecosystem, it is believed this region would have short, wet seasons, leaving much of these forests to dry out and be prone to wildfires throughout much of the year. The original description of Utahraptor considered this creature to be an apex predator of its environment, capable of taking on some of the largest prey items of its home. This would include herbivores like the small iguanodontid Hippodraco, and possibly even small sauropods like the Mierosaurus. Hunting larger targets like these dinosaurs certainly adds to the wear-down hunting style theory, but another theory it possibly lends itself to would be pack hunting. If you remember our video on Velociraptor, you may recall that pack hunting was once thought to be a common trait among dromaeosaurs. However, a 2020 study analyzing the teeth of Deinonychus as they aged seemed to indicate that the desired prey of dromaeosaurs would change as they age, an unusual characteristic of pack animals and potentially disproving pack hunting for most dromaeosaurs. So, does this same train of thought hold true for Utahraptor? Interestingly, fossil evidence of Utahraptor may actually support the former. Maybe. In 2001, Kirkland worked with a graduate student to recover the remains of 7 Utahraptors, ranging in age from adult to hatchling, along with the remains of a small iguanodontid. This discovery could point to 2 different scenarios. One, that this is an example of a family or pack of Utahraptors hunting a dinosaur together, disproving this 2020 hypothesis. However, this instead could be an example of what is called a predator trap, a phenomenon where one animal dies in some kind of quicksand or tar and would draw in predators who would suffer a similar fate. If this is the case, this could further disprove this early belief of pack hunting. But work on this specimen is ongoing, and could include even more specimens of Utahraptor. Yes, ongoing for over 10 years. Science is slow. While Velociraptor often hogs the spotlight in terms of pop culture relevance, Utahraptor has been able to stand apart as a potential second placeholder among dromaeosaurs. But this did not come without some confusion. A common misconception was that the Velociraptors of the Jurassic Park franchise, particularly the original 1993 movie, are actually based on Utahraptor, and for good reason. These movie raptors are much more comparable in size to the 2-meter tall Utahraptor over the true half-a-meter tall namesake. And movie director Steven Spielberg was a potential funder for the dig site of Utahraptor, and was almost given a species name to honor this contribution, as noted in the notes on the side of the screen. Yeah, bet you wish you were reading those now, huh? There's interesting stuff in there, and those take time to edit. But many of these explanations have been cracked up to coincidence. As mentioned in our video on Velociraptor, Jurassic Park book author Michael Crichton was inspired by the works of paleo artist Gregory Paul, who claimed Velociraptor was a species of the larger, albeit still too small Deinonychus, which would be further sized up not for scientific accuracy, but instead for dramatic effect. In fact, the description of Utahraptor would not come out until the same year as the movie, leaving little time to base any designs off of this larger raptor. And as for that Spielberg naming debacle, that is actually an interesting situation. Early articles, such as the piece written by Desert News back in 1993, claimed the reason for not naming the creature after Spielberg were financial ones, that the creature would be named after Spielberg as thanks for providing funding. And when that funding didn't come through, Kirkland changed his mind and decided against it. However, a more recent piece written by Inverse in 2021 provides greater detail into the situation, stating that Kirkland was misquoted in saying this, and that he is actually very grateful for everything Spielberg has done for the paleontology field. The real reason for this name selection was actually legal, as Universal at the time was threatening to sue any museums that tried to advertise Jurassic in their exhibits. And Kirkland's boss at the time warned him that it is likely they would do the same threats against a dinosaur named after the movie's director. Based on outside research I've done myself and, understanding how corporate Hollywood usually acts, this story seems much more feasible. I also highly recommend you check out this Inverse article. It provides some great insight into the discovery of Utahraptor. Links in the description below. That said, Utahraptor has still been able to make a few appearances of its own. Some of these include video games like 2021's Jurassic World Evolution, and various builds of the Isle, although more recent builds have renamed this creature to the fictional Omniraptor, as well as documentaries like the fever dream that is 2008's Jurassic Fight Club, 2011's Dinosaur Revolution, and its nightmare-inducing appearance in 1999's Walking with Dinosaurs. Like, seriously, the puppets for these things gave me nightmares as a kid. Ugh, haunting. The Utahraptor has become a fan favorite among many dinosaur communities, and it's no secret why. This terrifying dinosaur fully embodies the cunning and lethality of the dromaeosaur family, while boasting incredible size and strength few other raptors can compare to. With a creature as horrifying as this beast wandering our Earth, it really makes you question how truly Utah-ful our prehistoric world truly was. That's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to leave a comment below what you think of Utahraptor, and if you've heard of this dinosaur before the video. I think Utahraptor may actually be our most requested dinosaur, besides like T-Rex, of course. Honestly, I thought this dinosaur was overhyped, but writing this video has actually made me a bit more of a fan. Next week, we actually won't be exploring a particular dinosaur. Tune in next Friday, I'm sure you guys will like it. Thank you for your support, and see you in the next video.